Viewer discretion is advised.
From the classic tale of Treasure Island to modern movies like Pirates of the Caribbean,
Uncle Jack! Jackie boy!
pirate legends have been with us for quite some time, and one of the most terrifying and notorious pirates that ever lived was Blackbeard. Born in Bristol, sailed the seas around the West Indies and Britain's American colonies in the 18th century. Literature and popular culture have painted a fearsome image of this formidable man. But what is the true story behind this infamous sailor's reign of the seas? Before we set sail on today's journey, don't forget to like and subscribe. Blackbeard, aka Edward Teach, earned a century-spanning reputation as the most dastardly sea devil of them all. He has been variously painted as a ferocious thug, pirate king, and a gentleman in wolf's clothing. But what do we really know about Edward Teach, the man behind the smoking beard? Surprisingly, little is known about the vast majority of Edward Teach's existence. His reputation as the ultimate pirate is actually built on a frenetic period of activity that took place in the last 2 years of his life. It is believed that Teach, whose name might have been Thatch, at some point in his youth took to the waves and sailed to the Americas, possibly on a merchant slave trading ship. It's probable that he saw action as a privateer or combatant in Queen Anne's War, the North American front of the War, the Spanish Succession, a complicated conflict that divided Europe in 1701 to 1714. Teach likely then fell in with the pirate crowd around Jamaica and the Bahamas after Britain pulled out of the war. But what is known for sure is that by 1716 he was mingling with career pirates on the island of New Providence. Teach first comes to light in written records in 1716 when he's reported on working as a lieutenant to a compatriot, Captain Benjamin Hornigold, a former privateer who had been involved in piracy since 1713. In 1717, after he'd captured a 30-gun ship he renamed the Ranger, Hornigold placed Teach in command of his original sloop, and the two boats set sail for the American mainland. En route, a further 3 ships, all merchant vessels laden with wine and food, were successfully ransacked. Around this time, Teach encountered the so-called gentleman pirate, Stede Bonnet, an eccentric Barbadian whose chief motive for entering into piracy appears to have been to get away from his nagging wife. Bonnet, who had no knowledge of the sea or ship culture, was paying his crew wages unheard of in pirate circles, where everyone from the captain down typically reaped their rewards from treasures plundered. At the crew's request, and with Bonnet's approval, Teach took command of his ship, the Revenge. Up until this point, Hornigold had steadfastly refused to attack British ships, possibly because it would eliminate his last shred of defense against accusations of piracy. However, these scruples were not held by his crew, most of whom just wanted a slice of whatever loot they could lay their hands on. After a vote taken while Teach was elsewhere, Hornigold was replaced as captain.
You win!
And shortly afterwards, Hornigold sailed off in the Ranger to accept the king's pardon. Later, Hornigold turned pirate hunter, but he and Teach never met again. In November 1717, off the coast of St. Vincent, Teach attacked and captured a large French slave ship. La Concorde de Nantes, which he renamed Queen Anne's Revenge. His new flagship was equipped with 40 guns. Teach now had 3 ships and presided over 150 men. Over the next few months, Teach may have captured many ships, and his presence greatly affected transatlantic commerce at the time. However, by 1725, the golden age of piracy was coming to an end, and merchants and sailors could easily recover from Blackbeard's economic impact. When the long-lost Queen Anne's Revenge was rediscovered in 1996 in Bayfort Inlet, North Carolina, the only treasures found included a medical syringe, a scrap of paper from a 1712 adventure book, and a few grams of gold dust, arguably suggesting that Blackbeard was not as rich and powerful as legend has it. Henry Bostock, a captain of a ship that Teach ransacked around this time, recounts the pirate as a tall, spare man with a very black beard, which he wore very long. This appears to have been the source of his simple but effectively menacing title, Blackbeard. The really evocative depictions of Teach, complete with lit fuses under his hat and his beard, comes from the book A General History of the Robberies and Murders of the Most Notorious Pirates, published in 1724, and written by mysterious Captain Charles Johnson. The book describes Teach as such a figure that imagination cannot form an idea of a fury from hell to look more frightful. Famously, Blackbeard's name originates from his thick, long black beard and hair. Legend has it he would weave hemp into his beard and set it alight before battle, intimidating his enemies. The reality is, however, that the blood-curdling pirate would put small candles or pieces of fuse into his hair and light those. They would give off smoke rather than burn as a fire, which consequently gave him his demonic appearance. Supposedly, Blackbeard had his own flag portraying a white-horned skeleton making a toast to the devil and spewing a red heart. The skeleton symbolized the death of enemy crews who decided to fight Blackbeard, and the speared heart meant that no mercy would be asked for or given. This imagery, however, has no contemporary links to any historical accounts of Blackbeard. The first appearance of this flag design was in a Mariner's Mirror article published in 1912, and was only associated to Blackbeard much later. The imagery also has no link to conventional depictions of the 18th century devil. Blackbeard's reputation was cruel and heartless. He was easily the most feared pirate of his day. Although his intimidating sailors and men were deadly fighters when they needed to be, Blackbeard preferred to avoid fighting and used his wits instead. He was very intelligent, having come from a wealthy family, and was given a better education than the average pirate. Rumor has it that Blackbeard in fact killed no men throughout his piracy until his final battle, and there is indeed no record of Blackbeard's murders. Blackbeard's Death. Blackbeard did settle down, to an extent. He married the daughter of a local plantation owner and built a home on Ocracoke Island. He would often go out and drink and carouse with the locals. On one occasion, pirate Captain Charles Vane came seeking Blackbeard to try and lure him back to the Caribbean, but Blackbeard had a good thing going on and politely refused. Vane and his men stayed on Ocracoke for a week, and Vane and Teach and their men had a rum-soaked party. According to Captain Charles Johnson, Blackbeard would occasionally let his men have their way with his young wife, but there is no evidence to support this, and it appears to simply be a nasty rumor of the time. Local sailors and merchants soon got tired of this legendary pirate haunting the inlets of North Carolina. Suspecting that Eden was in cahoots with Blackbeard, they took their complaints to Alexander Spotswood, governor of neighboring Virginia, who had no love for pirates or for Eden. There were two British war sloops in Virginia at the time, the Pearl and the Lime. Spotswood made arrangements to hire some 50 sailors and soldiers off of these ships and put a Lieutenant Robert Maynard in charge of the expedition. Since the sloops were too large to chase Blackbeard in shallow inlets, Spotswood also provided two light ships. The two small ships, the Ranger and the Jane, scouted along the coast for the well-known pirate. Blackbeard's haunts were well known, and it didn't take Maynard too long to find him. Late in the day on November 21, 1718, they sighted Blackbeard off of Ocracoke Island, but decided to delay the attack until the next day. Meanwhile, Blackbeard and his men were drinking all night as they entertained a fellow smuggler. Fortunately for Maynard, many of Blackbeard's men were ashore. On the morning of the 22nd, the Ranger and the Jane tried to sneak up on the Adventure, but both became stuck on sandbars and Blackbeard and his men couldn't help but notice them. There was a verbal exchange between Maynard and Blackbeard. According to Captain Charles Johnson, Blackbeard said, "Damnation seize my soul if I give you quarters, or take any from you." As the Ranger and the Jane came closer, the pirates fired their cannons, killing several sailors and stalling the Ranger. On the Jane, Maynard hid many of his men below decks, disguising his numbers. A lucky shot severed the rope attached to one of Adventure's sails, making escape impossible for the pirates. The Jane pulled up to the Adventure, and the pirates, thinking they had an advantage, boarded the smaller vessel. The soldiers came out of the hold, and Blackbeard and his men found themselves outnumbered. Blackbeard himself was a demon in battle, fighting on despite what was later described as 5 gun wounds and 20 cuts by swords and cutlass. Blackbeard fought one-on-one with Maynard and was about to kill him when a British soldier gave the pirate a cut on his neck. A second hack severed his head. Blackbeard's men fought on, but outnumbered, and with their leader gone, they eventually surrendered. And that was the end of Blackbeard. And as for his treasure, despite common legend, pirates rarely bury their treasure, and it is most likely that Blackbeard himself did not. The myth originated from the 1882 Robert Louis Stevenson novel Treasure Island, which mentions Blackbeard and features the character Israel Hands, Blackbeard's real-life second-in-command. Furthermore, even if Blackbeard had buried his treasure, his loot would have been worthless today, as it consisted mainly of cocoa and sugar. There is only one confirmed case of a pirate who buried his treasure, and that is William Kidd in 1699, whose riches were soon dug up and used against him in trial. But legend has it that Blackbeard's treasure chest lies on the ocean floor off the coast of Maryland, protected by a curse that prevents anyone from bringing it to the surface. Literature suggests that it was lost in the Bermuda Triangle, yet according to legend, all those who have tried to find it have never returned. Some say that Blackbeard won't rest until his treasure is found, yet others believe his ghost guards the booty, ensuring it will remain hidden forever. If you liked our video, don't forget to subscribe and follow our channel for more videos like this one.
The tide is right. Let's hunt for treasure!